You are now listening to Serious Minds RNTV with your host, Professor Griff. The call-in number is 516-654-7688. That's 516-654-7688. This is Professor Griff, and this is Serious Minds RNTV. Serious Minds for Serious Minds. Seriously. The Alternative Black Studies online course with instructor Professor Griff. Sign up today at www.professorgriff.me and Serious Minds Institute. The Alternative Black Studies online course with instructor Professor Griff. Sign up today at www.professorgriff.me and Serious Minds Institute. The Alternative Black Studies online course with instructor Professor Griff. Sign up today at www.professorgriff.me and Serious Minds Institute. Thank you. Right, and I think we are on. Greetings, family. Shout out to everyone, of course, in the Serious Minds family. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm trying to rearrange this room to make something different happen, so maybe we can kind of bear with me. Just trying to figure some things out. In any event, thank you very much for supporting the platform. As always, Mr. LP, what's good with you, man? All right. Shout out to everybody on IG and shout out to everyone right here where you're supposed to be on YouTube. All right. Shout out to everyone on Facebook and, of course, Twitter and Periscope. Greetings to everyone. All right. Of course, you already know this. Professor Griffin. This is Serious Minds. Quan S., what's good with you? Did you get some rest, Quan? Where and when can I download and purchase your latest release featuring Soleil? Matter of fact, Mr. LP, I can send it to you, but you can go on YouTube and it's there. It's called Etheric Rebel. All right. Please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and share, fam. And do not forget to hit the bell, icon, so you can get notified when we are on right here, Serious Minds. All right. If you would like to advertise your event or your business right here on Serious Minds RNTV, you can do so by hitting me up. 678-557-2919. Just text me and we can make it happen. 678-557-2919 for the people that's on IG. All right. Okay. Nothing much, Quan S. All right. Making it happen then. All right. Oh, Mr. LP Kwan put it up on the screen. She says you can purchase the Energy Code album now. You can purchase it at www.professorgriff.bandcamp.com. You can purchase the whole album. It's called the Energy Code. All right. All right, the Energy Code. And then, of course, Soleil's album, Encoded, is now available for download on all musical platforms. It's called Encoded. And, of course, you know the name, Soleil. All right. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a couple of more tracks, and she's re-releasing that album, doing a couple of remixes and some other things. All right. If you would like to purchase any of the Brain Tonics, Resurrection, Formula, or any of the merchandise, please hit me up. Or just go to www.professorgriff.me. All right. Family, if you do not have your Public Enemy hat, snapback, please go online and order it right now as we speak. As a matter of fact, if you need it by the next couple of days, just hit me up, 678-557-2919. I would get the RBG joint, but that's just me. I don't know about you. All right. All right, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, fam, on the mags. All right, if you got an AR-15 rifle at home, get you a custom P-mag from Professor Griff. All right. All right, if you like to support independent black media, you can do so by starting right here on the Cash App, $ Professor Griff. All right. Shout out to my brother Umar from Jacksonville, Florida. Assalamu alaikum, good bro. All right. Thank you for supporting the platform. Really appreciate you, man. All right. Shout out to Dr. Scott Whitaker. What's good with you, Doc? All right. Here's my website, fam. Let's make it happen. All right. Tonight, I'm going to need some help with this subject, Quan, tonight. It's critical, man. So I didn't even kind of believe it when I first kind of saw it or heard it. Check. All right, I'm good on the volume. I'm good. Black children are jailed for crimes that don't even exist. Wow. I'm gonna let that marinate for a minute. Come on. Got to be kidding me. So how are you going to put a black child in jail for crimes that's not even on the books, that don't even exist? We're going to get to that story in a minute after. All right, I give you the daily quote. All right, so now I owe you 2 quotes because today is the 3rd, and we didn't get a chance to do it yesterday. So here we go. I'm pulling from this book, the Nayin Nassim. All right, the Nayin Sassim. All right. Hold on one second. All right. If you got the book, pull it out. All right. Talk to me. If you don't have the book, Quan, can you let them know where to go? This is Imani Mukebe Mani Barudi's book, The Akabin House. Can you imagine you going to jail for a crime that's not even on the books, that don't even exist? Wow. Hold on a second, fam. All right. All right, so January 2nd and January 3rd. All right, I got them bookmarked. We right here. We on point. Oh, dang, I thought I sent it to you, Quan. I sent it to you. All right, anyway, here we go. January 2nd from the Nayan Sasem in Walimuke Bomani Baruti. All right. It says building the community is our duty. It is our duty, and our duty that we must undertake to fulfill without excessive concern for the additional inconvenience, time, or resources it requires. Akoto. Kwame Ajayi Akoto. Building the community is our duty. It is our duty we must undertake to fulfill without excessive concern for the additional inconvenience, time, or resources that it may require to build our community. What did you do today as an individual to build yourself and contribute and give back or give forward to your community? All right. And then January 3rd, which is today. We must improve, pardon me. We must prove our predictions about the future with action. All right. We must prove our predictions about the future with actions. George L. Jackson. So let me ask a basic question, family, before we dive into the subject at hand. Who is George Jackson? Simple question. Simple question. Who is George Jackson? Simple question. Don't take much to answer. Who is George Jackson? Who is George Jackson? Can someone help me out? Y'all should be Googling on your phone, doing something. But please give me an answer. All right? Low key, what's up, man? Give me an answer, man. Who's George Jackson? Did somebody have the answer yet? Thank you, little goddess. George Lester Jackson was an American author, activist, and convicted criminal. Now, you know somebody that's not our people that's writing that. I don't know where she got that definition from. But anyway, while serving an intermediate sentence for the armed robbery of a gas station in 1961, Jackson became involved in a revolutionary activity and co-founded the Marxist-Leninist Black Guerrilla Family. The Black Guerrilla Family. George Jackson. All right. Inspired by Vietnamese nationalist Ho Chi Minh, who met in Harlem, Garveyites, Korean nationalists, and Chinese communists. George Jackson, referencing South American revolutionary who fought for Cuba, Che Guevara, describes how black prisoners can engage, in an alchemy that turns a slave into a dragon. George Jackson. How many people still belong to the Black Guerrilla family? Well, those are our quotes for today, January 2nd and January 3rd. All right. It says the direction we choose to look is an excellent rod for measuring tenure of our movement as revolutionaries. What do you use to measure your tenure as a revolutionary? Or do you even consider yourself a revolutionary? All right. As did Ho Chi Minh, George Jackson initially sought to play by the rules of diplomacy, negotiation, and compromise. For real, Quan? Where they at? Oh, I see. Wow. Linking the third world liberationists as an international phenomenon, George Jackson politicized himself into being a hyper-intellectual. Isn't that a lot of our revolutionary stories? Coming from nothing, building themselves into something? Come on. Okay. All right, so today's subject, we're going to be talking about a judge who sentenced black children were jailed for a crime that didn't exist. Almost nothing happened to the adults in charge. Sentencing and destroying young people's lives. All right. Now, right now, give me the name of the book. Come on, family. Y'all forgot this is Serious Minds. Give me the name of the book that Dr. Amos Wilson wrote in reference to the genius of black children. Come on, family. Come on. There's people watching. Don't disappoint your brother. You know how you got to tell your children that you're about to have company and don't act up? I'm checking my text. I don't see anything. What you talking about, man? Come on, family. Come on, little goddess. I know you on it. Psychological development of the black child. Thank you very much. Thank you. What did Amos Wilson say in that book that speaks to this? What happened to our good brother Malcolm X at an early age in school when Malcolm said he wanted to be a lawyer? What did the teacher tell him? Awakening the geniuses in black children. Okay, thank you, Mr. LP, sir. All right, I'm about to play a commercial. I'll be right back, man. My
You have heard so much about him, but in a few minutes you're going to hear from him.
Greetings, Serious Minds family.
May we come in? Why, sure. Come right in. Come right in. Look, it's over home.
On Serious Minds Radio. Serious Minds. Attract Serious Minds. Seriously.
Latest word also from National Press Services in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Check again. You put in the
show that addresses the complex issues today affecting the human family from the solution think approach that tackles confusing and complex issues through the hip-hop lens, hosted by none other than Professor Griff, the co-founding member of the legendary hip-hop group Public Enemy.
On Serious Minds Radio.
what did you say? Check again. You put in the check again. You please speak.
I have a duty to perform.
Griff Serious Minds family.
And for the details of this continuing story,
I'll give you the story.
I really Why didn't you listen to me?
I demand, I insist.
Why didn't you listen to me?
You know, I bet I can guess what's on your mind.
Bet you can.
Serious Minds.
Good to see you.
All right. Please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and share, fam. Really appreciate that, Quan. All right. We were talking about Dr. Amos Wilson, were we not? Or was we talking about Barashanga? I think somebody put, before I stepped out, I said Dr. Amos Wilson. We have to get to the root of it, man. All right. Awakening the Natural Genius in Black Children. Dr. Amos Wilson. Okay. All right. What is it about the natural genius in Black children? Or can Black children be geniuses? All right. Because if that thought never even entered into your mind, yeah, I'm good. If that thought never even entered your mind, then you can't even understand and kind of wrap your brain around or fathom the, or even comprehend the whole idea or fathom the thought about a Black person being a genius. So when you think of genius, what do you think about? Because according to this story right here, Black children were jailed for a crime that doesn't exist. How are you going to arrest someone? When you arrest someone, aren't you supposed to tell them what you're arresting them for? Thank you, Miss Monique Hill. We were born genius. It's this system that dumbs us down, that turns us into something other than what we really are. Thank you very much, Miss Monique Hill. Couldn't have said that better myself. Black children were jailed for a crime that doesn't exist. Almost nothing happened to the adults in charge. Judge Donna Scott, a woman. Judge Donna Scott Davenport oversees a juvenile justice system in Rutherford County, Tennessee, with a staggering history of jailing children. She said kids must face consequences which rarely seem to apply to her or other adults in charge. Wow. So you're talking about must face consequences as children. So should you face the consequence of your ill and wrongdoing to children, jailing them for, I guess, crimes that never even existed because they're not even on the books? Thank you, Quan. I could not have said that better myself, because they always move the goalposts and change, make up laws and penalize us as they see fit. I could not have said that. That sums up the whole damn show right there. Hold on, fam.
Autumn presents.
Black children were jailed for a crime that doesn't exist. Almost nothing happened to the adults in charge. Written by Maribel Knight, Nashville Public Radio, and Ken Armstrong. Chapter 1. What in the world?
What in the world?
Friday, April 15th, 2016. Hobgood Elementary School, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. 3 police officers were crowded into the assistant principal's office at Hobgood Elementary School, and Tammy Garrett, the school's principal, had no idea what to do. One officer, wearing a tactical vest, was telling her, "Go get the kids." A second officer was telling her, "Don't go get the kids." The third officer wasn't saying anything. Garrett knew the police had been sent to arrest some children, although exactly which children it would turn out was unclear to everyone, even to these officers. The names police had given the principal included 4 girls, now sitting in classrooms throughout the school. All 4 girls were Black. There was a 6th grader, 2 4th graders, and a 3rd grader. The youngest was 8. On this sunny Friday afternoon in spring, she wore her hair in pigtails. A few weeks before, a video had appeared on YouTube. It showed 2 small boys, 5 and 6 years old, throwing feeble punches at a larger boy as he walked away, while other kids tagged along, some yelling. The scuffle took place off school grounds, after a game of pickup basketball. One kid insulted another kid's mother, is what started it all. The police were at Hopgood because of that video, but they hadn't come for the boys who threw punches. They were here for the children who looked on. The police in Murfreesboro, a fast-growing city about 30 miles southeast of Nashville, had secured juvenile petitions for 10 children in all who were accused of failing to stop the fight. Officers were now rounding up kids, even though the department couldn't identify a single one in the video, which was posted with a filter that made faces fuzzy. What was clear were the voices, including that of one girl trying to break up the fight, saying, "Stop, Tay-Tay, stop, Tay-Tay, stop, Tay-Tay." She was a 4th grader at Hopgood. Her initials were EJ. The confusion at Hopgood, one officer saying this, another saying that, could be traced in part to absence. A police officer regularly assigned to Hopgood, who knew the students and staff, had bailed that morning after learning about the planned arrests. The thought of arresting these children caused him such stress that he feared he might cry in front of them, or have a heart attack. He wanted nothing to do with it, so he complained of chest pains and went home, with no warning to his fill-in about what was in store. Also absent was the police officer who had investigated the video and instigated these arrests, Crystal Templeton. She had assured the principal she would be there. She had also told Garrett there would be no handcuffs, that police would be discreet. But Templeton was a no-show. Garrett even texted her, "How's timing?" but got no answer. Instead of going to Hopgood, Templeton had spent the afternoon gathering the petitions, then heading to the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center, a 2-tiered jail for children, with dozens of surveillance cameras, 48 cells, and 64 beds. There, she waited for the kids to be brought to her. In Rutherford County, a juvenile court judge had been directing police on what she called our process for arresting children, and she appointed the jailer who employed a filter system to determine which children to hold. The judge was proud of what she had helped build, despite some alarming numbers buried in state reports. Among cases referred to juvenile court, the statewide average for how often children were locked up was 5%. In Rutherford County, it was 48%.
Damn.
In the assistant principal's office at Hopgood, the officer telling Garrett not to get the kids was Chris Williams. Williams, who is Black, had been a Murfreesboro cop for 5 years. What in the world, he thought, when he learned what these arrests were about. At Hopgood, 2/3 of the students were Black or Latino. Williams wondered if such arrests would be made at a school that was mostly white. He had a daughter who was 9. He pictured her being arrested. This is going to blow up, he thought. I'm going to end up in federal court over this. He considered quitting, but instead tried to get someone to intervene. Tucked in an office corner, he called a sergeant, a lieutenant, and a major, but couldn't find anyone to call it off. The officer not saying anything was Albert Miles III. Growing up, Miles, who is Black, had friends who hated the police. But Miles's dad was a cop. Miles wanted to prove that police could be trusted. That afternoon...
All right, we're going to pause it right there. Woo! That story on these particular sites, sometimes they're designed so that blind people can get the story and get the news and read the stories. Sometimes it's better to grasp the concept of the stories in that way. Sometimes when you hear it as opposed to reading it. sometimes I gotta read it. You understand what I'm saying? It's almost like saying sometimes you just gotta be there. All right. But to get the full impact. So now these children are being arrested. Black officers are on the scene. All right. The school is predominantly Black and Latino. All right. The one that's the adults that are systematically running these children from school to prison pipeline. All right. And this is the prime example of it. Giving them records and having things on their record early on. All right. Tracking them on through school right on to the point where they become adults and tracking them right on through. All right. It's these kind of stories that if we don't kind of get the internal infrastructure of the Black family together and the Black community get together in every town, in every city, in every state, we're going to fail our children. We're going to fail our children. All right. What's the sense in calling ourselves revolutionaries without doing revolutionary things, without doing revolutionary acts, without thinking as revolutionaries? And revolution simply means complete, constructive, conscious, cosmic change. All right. So now let's think through at this particular point what should be done. Because as you said, Quan, they get a slap on the wrist and that's that. But how could they get the slap on the wrist for something that they don't even know, that the police officers don't even know that they did? Let's get back to the story.
Miles had been pulled out of a roll call along with another officer. A sergeant told the two to go arrest some kids at Hobgood. The sergeant didn't say why. But at Hobgood, Miles started picking up details. Miles, too, wondered if these arrests would happen at a school full of white students. The third officer at Hobgood was Jeff Carroll. He'd been pulled out of roll call with Miles. Carroll, who is white, was a patrol officer and SWAT team member. In evaluations, supervisors praised him as a leader, cool under pressure. Carroll also had no idea what these arrests were about, but his sergeant had ordered them, and he followed orders. Carroll was the officer telling the principal, "Go get the kids." Garrett asked if she could call their parents first. Carroll told her no. Garrett told the police that one girl had diabetes and got treatment when she arrived home after school. "Please," the principal said, "let me call her parent." On this, the police ultimately compromised, saying the girl could get a shot in the nurse's office before being taken to the jail. Of the two officers telling Garrett what to do, get the kids, don't get the kids, Carol seemed the more aggressive, the principal would say later. She agreed to get the kids. Having these arrests take place at Hobgood was not something school officials wanted. They wanted kids to feel safe at school. Garrett grew up poor. 9/10 of her students were poor. Years before, Hobgood had struggled academically. Now it was a celebrated success. Garrett and her staff had worked to build trust with parents, with students. "I don't give up on kids," Garrett says, but she knew that trust is fragile.
Thank you very much, little goddess. Criminalizing kids, part 1. When schools call police on students, Black children and students with disabilities get the brunt of it. So, should the parents be called? That's what I'm asking. Should the parents be called in this situation? Should the parents be called? Schools calls the police arrive at the same time while the police are on the way. I think the school should be calling the parent. All right, if you want the article, if you want to listen to the article, you guys can go to, hold on, let me put it on the screen. Hold on, fam. The ProPublica, www.pro.publica.org, ProPublica.org. All right. Get the article, listen to it. All right. Oh, you put it in the live chat already? All right. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Thank you, your royalty, Pete. Parents should have been called before you call the damn cops. Because most of those situations you can resolve right there at the school without involving police officers. Once you involve the police officers, you know what's going to happen. Do you remember the little girl in Florida that they came that was a little bit unruly and they tried to handcuff her and take her to jail? They didn't have handcuffs small enough. So then we need to ask whether or not if this is part of their way of criminalizing children. Is this their way of school to prison pipeline? Is this where it starts? All right. Dark Matter Raw 7. Peace. What's good? Criminalizing black children. What happened to you having children of your own, or you having some degree of the thing that should have kicked in, and I just call that you being a mom or a dad? Why didn't that kick in? All right, let's go back to the story. I'm just saying it should have kicked in. That's just me.
And trauma endures. As Garrett gathered the girls from their classrooms, she believed the police would at least avoid a spectacle. School let out at 2:30. That was minutes away. Garrett's understanding was that the police would keep the girls in the office until school was dismissed and everyone else was gone. Garrett rounded up the 6th grader, a tall girl with braids who had visions of becoming a police officer, one of the 4th graders, the girl with diabetes, and the 8-year-old 3rd grader. In the hallway, the principal tried to prepare them, saying the police were there regarding a video of a fight. Hearing this, the 6th grader told Garrett that the 2 other girls hadn't even been there. After returning to the office with the 3 girls, Garrett relayed to police what the 6th grader had told her. Her words were barely out when Carol made it clear he'd had enough. Garrett said later, when interviewed as part of an internal police investigation, "Carol pulled out handcuffs and put them right in my face," Garrett recalled. And he said, we're going now. There's no more talk, and we're going now." And I said, but. Carol yelled at her, Garrett said. She felt intimidated, bullied. She worried that if she said any more, she might be arrested herself. And so I backed off. By now the girls were crying and screaming and reaching for the principal, who was also crying, as was the assistant principal. And it was awful, Garrett later said. Carol handcuffed the 6th grader. Later asked why, he said because policy allowed him to. After being handcuffed, the 6th grader fell to her knees. Miles handcuffed the 8-year-old with pigtails. Just acting out of habit, he said later. Walking to a patrol car, Miles stopped and thought, wait a minute, and removed the cuffs. I guess my brain finally caught up with what was going on. While Carol drove those 2 girls to the jail, the 4th grader with diabetes stayed behind to see the nurse. She was sisters with the 6th grader. Her initials were CC. In all this back and forth, Principal Garrett realized something. The other 4th grader. She had forgotten about her. And now school was out. The girl had boarded her bus and was waiting to go home. The other fourth grader was EJ. Although she'd said stop, she was on the police's list to be picked up for encouraging the fight. Go get her, the police told Garrett. Garrett was still crying. She didn't want to go out to the line of buses and let all those kids see her like that. But she went, feeling she had little choice. A teacher beckoned EJ off the bus. Then Garrett escorted her inside, to the awaiting police. EJ, scared and confused, begged for her mother and threw up on the floor. The two fourth graders still at Hobgood, EJ and Cece, were best friends. Williams and Miles walked the girls outside, not handcuffing either. With some parents joining in, the officers formed a prayer circle around the two girls. Miles prayed out loud for the kids to be protected and for God to bring peace and understanding. Then he buckled the fourth graders into a patrol car and drove off. On the way to jail, the girls cried, snot and all, EJ would say later. Garrett, meanwhile, pulled out her personal cell phone and began calling parents, no longer willing to do as the police commanded. For the officers, the confusion didn't end at the school.
Now, wait a minute. What happens? What point do you get to where the human aspect and part of you, the parent part of you, the real man and the real woman, and you don't speak up and speak out and say, wait a minute, I know policy is policy. I know whatever, I might get reprimanded, yada, 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 whatever. But these are children. Let me kind of like stop for a second. Let's just press the pause button. And as you heard while listening to this, would this have happened to children if they were white? What happened to a guidance counselor? I had a guidance counselor in my school. What happened to the coach? What happened to your favorite teacher? Just listen.
Continued once the children began arriving at the jail. When Carol walked in with the first two girls, Templeton, the investigating officer, pointed to the 8-year-old and asked what she was doing there. The police had no petition for her, Templeton said. The 8-year-old's mother soon arrived and took her child home. Miles brought in the last two girls, the two fourth graders. Then, walking out to his patrol car, he ran into an angry parent, Miles would recall later. It was a father demanding answers. Miles dropped his head, shaking it. The father asked why this was happening. I don't know, Miles answered. We are good people, the father said. I can only imagine what you're feeling, Miles answered. He explained briefly the juvenile court process. This is wrong, the father told Miles, over and over. After the third time, Miles, fighting back tears, said he understood as a parent himself the father's anger and pain. Fuck you, the father said.
Okay.
I understand, Miles answered. Only later, when he returned to the police station, did Miles allow himself to cry. When the parent asked why this was happening, Miles had been unable to say. But the answer traces to individual missteps and institutional breakdowns, all on a grand scale. What happened on that Friday and in the days after, when police rounded up even more kids, would expose an ugly and unsettling culture in Rutherford County, one spanning decades. In the wake of these mass arrests, lawyers would see inside a secretive legal system that's supposed to protect kids, but in this county did the opposite. Officials flouted the law by wrongfully arresting and jailing children. One of their worst practices was stopped following the events at Hobgood, but the conditions that allow the lawlessness remain. The adults in charge failed, yet they're still in charge. Tennessee's systems for protecting children failed, yet they haven't been fixed. Chapter 2. The Mother of the County. 11 children in all were arrested over the video, including the 8-year-old taken in by mistake. Media picked up the story. Parents and community leaders condemned the actions of police. Unimaginable, unfathomable, a Nashville pastor said. Unconscionable, inexcusable, insane, 3 state legislators said. But Rutherford County's juvenile court judge focused instead on the state of youth. telling a local TV station, "We are in a crisis with our children in Rutherford County. I've never seen it this bad." Rutherford County.
Let's pause right there. Is this not every place we know? Almost every place. Let me not say every place. Isn't this most of the places that we know where black children are? All right. Isn't this most of the places we know? And probably worse, where white children are? But is this kind of behavior from police officers and administrators and judges? Is this the kind of stuff that go on? Is this the system now that we're going to allow to stay in place? All right. Is this the system that you pay your hard-earned tax dollars for to stay in place, to do this to your children? Let's get back to the story.
County established the position of elected juvenile court judge in 2000, and ever since, Donna Scott Davenport has been the job's only holder. She sometimes calls herself the mother of the county. Davenport runs the juvenile justice system, appointing magistrates, setting rules, and presiding over cases that include everything from children accused of breaking the law to parents accused of neglecting their children. While the county's mayor, sheriff, and commissioners have turned over, she has stayed on, becoming a looming figure for thousands of families. "She's been the judge ever since I was a kid," said one mother whose own kids have cycled through Davenport's courtroom. One man, now in his late 20s, said that when he was a kid in trouble, he would pray for a magistrate instead of Davenport. If she's having a bad day, most definitely you're going to have a bad day. While juvenile court is mostly private, Davenport keeps a highly public profile. For the past 10 years, she's had a monthly radio segment on WGNS, a local station where she talks about her work. She sees a breakdown in morals. Children lack respect. "It's worse now than I've ever seen it," she said in 2012. "Parents don't parent. It's just the worst I've ever seen," she said in 2017. On WGNS, Davenport reminisces with the show's host about a time when families ate dinner together and parents always knew where their children were and what friends they were with because kids called home from a landline, not some could-be-anywhere cell phone. Video games, the internet, social media. It's all poison for children, the judge says. Davenport describes her work as a calling. "I'm here on a mission. It's not a job, it's God's mission," she told a local newspaper. The children in her courtroom aren't hers, but she calls them hers. "I'm seeing a lot of aggression in my 9 and 10-year-olds, she says in one radio segment. She encourages parents troubled by their children's behavior to use over-the-counter kits to test them for drugs. "Don't buy them at the Dollar Tree," she says on the radio. "The best ones are your reputable drugstores." Scrutinizing the inner workings of Tennessee's juvenile courts can be difficult. Court files are mostly off-limits. Proceedings can be closed at a judge's discretion. But on the radio, Davenport provides listeners a glimpse of the court's work. "I've locked up one 7-year-old in 13 years, and that was a heartbreak," she said in 2012. "But 8 and 9-year-olds and older are very common now." Davenport has lots of favorite sayings. "God don't make no junk," she says to kids, to instill self-worth. To instill fear, she will say, "I'm going to let you be young and dumb one time." There's no jury in juvenile court, so Davenport decides the facts as well as the law. "And that is why I should get 12 times the pay," she likes to joke. Davenport enforces a strict dress code in her courtroom, requiring people to show deference. There will be no untucked shirts, no sundresses, spaghetti straps, or spandex. No body piercings, no uncovered tattoos. Pants shall be pulled up. And if a child shows up without a belt, the judge keeps a bag of them. And if she runs out, you'll just have to make do with a piece of rope, one newspaper profile said. Davenport says children need consequences. "Being detained in our facility is not a picnic at all," she says on the radio. "It's not supposed to be. It's a consequence for an action." Davenport's tough talk and the county's high detention rate go against a reform movement that started about the same time she went on the bench. Beginning in the late 1990s, the number of kids in lockup began to decline, both nationally and in Tennessee. Davenport, now 69, grew up in Mount Juliet, a Nashville suburb. She attended Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, majoring in criminal justice. On the radio, Davenport says she has been blessed with an extensive history in law enforcement. I was trained well in 17 years by different law enforcement agencies. As a juvenile court judge, she says, she can spot subtle signs of gang activity, wearing something to the right or to the left, or a color here or a color there. Her description of her job history doesn't always match employment records. Davenport, in a sworn deposition, said her law enforcement career began in 1977 at MTSU, where, as a student, she worked full-time as a university police officer for 2 to 3 years. But her MTSU personnel file shows her being a part-time dispatcher, then a full-time clerk typist, then a full-time secretary. In 1980, Davenport started as a dispatcher for the Murfreesboro Police Department. Then she took another job, not in law enforcement, but in the law department for Nashville, investigating financial claims that might include anything from car accidents to slip and falls. At night, Davenport went to law school. She graduated in 1986. That same year, she told lawyers in a deposition, "I started with the feds." She told radio listeners that for 8 years she was with the U.S. Justice Department, where I analyzed and tracked and helped identify serial killers. But this job wasn't with the Justice Department. Her employer, Regional Information Sharing Systems, received federal funding, but isn't a federal agency.
Wow.
She then became a private investigator, handling mostly divorces, she told lawyers. In a deposition, Davenport said she first took the bar exam about a year after finishing law school. She failed, then kept trying. How many times have you taken the bar? An attorney asked her. I passed on the 5th time, she said. She was admitted to practice law in 1995, 9 years after getting her law degree. In 1998, she became a juvenile court referee, akin to a judge. One of the county's judges appointed her. Asked why, he recently said, I really can't go back and tell you. The following year,
This is the person. Those are the credentials of the individual that sit as judge and jury over your children to determine whether or not your 6, 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old will have a criminal record on whatever charge she seems fit. For real. We're only halfway through the article. Let's get back to the story. If y'all have time, all right, just let me know. Just give me the dictionary, all right? Or just text me or something.
Rutherford County violated federal law 191 times by keeping kids locked up too long, according to a story later published by the Tennessean. By law, children held for such minor acts as truancy were to appear before a judge within 24 hours and be released no more than a day after that. The newspaper interviewed Davenport, who estimated half those violations occurred because a kid had cursed her or someone else. For cursing, she said, she typically sentenced kids to 2 to 10 days in jail. Was I in violation? She said. Heck yes. But am I going to allow a child to cuss anyone out? Heck no. In August 2000, less than 3 months after the story was published, Rutherford County elected Davenport to the newly created job of juvenile court judge. Her opponent, a major in the sheriff's department, was later charged with sex crimes against minors and, in a plea deal, got probation. Davenport has not had another opponent since. With juveniles, police in Tennessee typically avoid cuffs and custody, particularly in less serious cases. They instead serve summonses, instructing kids and their parents to show up in court. But that wasn't the routine in Rutherford County. When the Murfreesboro officers arrested the kids at Hobgood, They were following Davenport's process: arrest, transport to the detention center for screening, then file charging papers. "It is so ordered," Davenport wrote in a 2003 memo about her instructions. 4 years later, she declared that even kids accused of minor violations like truancy must be taken into custody and transported to jail. Davenport once told Murfreesboro Daily News Journal, "I know I'm harsh. I'm very harsh. I like to think I'm fair, but I'm tough." In 2016, the Tennessee Board of Judicial Conduct publicly reprimanded Davenport. In a family law matter, a father's lawyers had asked to move his case to another county. By law, they were allowed to, but Davenport called the father and/or his attorneys a sneaky snake, the reprimand said. What's more, she ordered that a transcript of her words be forwarded, possibly tipping the next judge to her animosity. The reprimand found that Davenport's intemperate conduct threatened the right to a fair hearing. In some other cases, appeals courts have taken Davenport to task through unusually blunt language. In one, Davenport was overturned twice. Davenport, finding that a mother had neglected her daughter, granted custody to another couple. Two higher courts disagreed and ordered Davenport to reunify the mother and child. Instead, Davenport terminated the mother's parental rights.
Wow.
The other couple then adopted the girl, after being exhorted by Davenport to move quickly, according to a state court of appeals opinion. The adoption went through, while a challenge to Davenport's parental termination ruling was still pending. In the second go-round, a state appeals court judge made clear his displeasure, saying, during oral argument, "Our little system works pretty simply. If a higher court tells a lower court to do something, the lower court does it." That didn't happen in this case, he said. 2 months later, the appeals court overruled Davenport for a second time, saying it was troubled by the proceedings to this point. The court ordered Davenport to reunite the mother and child expeditiously. Davenport, through a spokesperson, declined our interview request, to which we attached 13 pages of questions. Previously, when asked about the county's arrest practices, Davenport told lawyers that she can't tell law enforcement what to do. She told a local newspaper that her court produces a lot of success stories. She told radio listeners, "I want the children that come in front of me to leave better than they came in." Chapter 3.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the charge. Friday, April 15th, 2016. Judicial Commissioner's Office, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
All right. This is only halfway through and we're already into 25-minute mark. So, whoo, wow. Wow. This is critical. This is the kind of stuff that flies under the radar everywhere. This is the kind of stuff our children have to go through and put up with and deal with. But because we're not educated about civics, the local law, we don't have enough people on the inside that can educate us about what's going on, especially on that level, because they're too busy trying to be them other people. It is ugly. When you're talking about what Dr. Amos Wilson gives us in reference to awakening the genius, the natural genius in Black children. All right. Wow. So family, I'm not going to ask y'all what do y'all think, because y'all been typing and writing what y'all think about this all along. That article is an hour long and you can continue to listen to it. Can somebody put it in the chat? It's Black children were jailed for a crime that doesn't exist. Judge Donna Scott Davenport, Rutherford County, Tennessee. You're right. She uses the judicial system against Black and brown people, giving them criminal records early on. Imagine you got a charge at 7 years old. So I would encourage anyone, or everyone, pardon me, to continue to listen to the entire talk. All right. The hour has gotten past us, and it's really too late now. I just want to play probably one more section of it so you can get at least an idea of the conclusion. Is that cool with everyone? Quan, that's good with you? All right. Let's dive back into it just for a few more minutes, fam.
On the same Friday afternoon as 3 police officers jammed into the assistant principal's office at Hobgood Elementary School, 3 other people huddled in another office a few miles away to discuss what charge these kids could face. Crystal Templeton, the police officer investigating the video, wanted to arrest every kid who watched the fight and get them all in front of Davenport. She would say later, during an internal police investigation, charging them was helping them, Templeton believed, because juvenile court is about rehabilitation. Templeton thought an appropriate charge might be conspiracy to commit assault. But then she met with Amy Anderson and Sherry Hamlet, 2 judicial commissioners authorized by Rutherford County to issue arrest warrants. Anderson told Templeton that she thought the only child who could be charged with conspiring was the kid who recorded video of the fight on a cell phone. So they went in search of another charge, with Hamlet checking the state's criminal code on a computer. Templeton had joined the Murfreesboro Police Department in 1998 when she was 21. By the time of the arrests at Hobgood, she had been disciplined at least 37 times, including 9 suspensions. She once left a loaded pistol on the seat of a patrol car, according to her personnel file. During a pursuit, she failed to turn on her dash cam. Another time, she lost control of her patrol car and hit a Ford Explorer, which in turn hit a Nissan Pathfinder while Templeton's patrol unit, spinning, smacked a Toyota Sequoia. In all, 4 cars were damaged and 7 people injured, including Templeton. In the lead up to the Hobgood arrests, Garrett, the school's principal, had heard grumbling about Templeton. Templeton was a school resource officer, not at Hobgood, but at 2 other schools in Murfreesboro. Both schools' principals complained that Templeton was often absent. Meanwhile, one of Hobgood's resource officers warned Garrett that Templeton's handling of the case was going to cause a shitstorm. But that officer didn't share her concerns with police higher-ups. She believed Templeton's sergeant always made excuses for her, so what was the point? Templeton had begun investigating on Wednesday, 2 days earlier. To try and identify all the kids, she asked around at schools and in the neighborhood where the fight took place. One parent she approached for help was EJ's mom. Templeton assured her no one was in trouble, that she just wanted to give the kids a talking to, EJ's mom would say later. EJ, who was with her mom during this meeting, said she had been there. It was her on the video saying, "Stop, Tay-Tay." On a piece of paper, on the hood of Templeton's patrol car, EJ and another girl who was with them listed the onlookers. And that was Templeton's investigation. "My case is the video and the list," she would say later, even though she couldn't match any bystander to any image in the video. The victim, the boy being punched, told Templeton the kids were all friends now. Templeton told him she understood. She then asked the child, "Do you think that there needs to be some consequences for what happened?" She would later recall. And he said yes. Templeton wanted guidance. She believed the boys throwing punches were too young to be charged with a crime. An assistant district attorney agreed. The assistant DA also told Templeton she didn't believe there was any single charge appropriate for all the kids gathered around, but Templeton still wanted to charge them all. Inside the judicial commissioner's office, Hamlet discovered an alternative to conspiracy to commit assault. Her search turned up a Tennessee statute defining criminal responsibility for conduct of another. It says, in part, a person is criminally responsible for an offense committed by another if the person causes or aids an innocent or irresponsible person.
Now, wait a minute. How many times these people sit and watch fights and none of these people are charged. All of a sudden, they find a statute on the books. They find some loophole in the law to come after your children. And then those of us that readily comply and those of us that readily aid them and give them a list, is that not treason? Thank you. She was basically making her own laws up as she went along. Family, I was going to play it right on up to the 20 to the 32-minute mark. It's at the 28-minute mark, and the 32-minute mark is halfway. And I guess on the next show, we can pick it up where we left off, if that's cool. Sit tight, Quan. Hold on.
To engage in the offense or directs another to commit the offense or fails to make a reasonable effort to prevent commission of the offense. Hamlet shared her find with Templeton. They went through the statute line by line, with Anderson joining in. I looked at the charge to the best of my ability. From my experience was like, yeah, that's the charge, Templeton would later say. When she subsequently apprised a higher up in the police department, the higher up wasn't so sure, but he didn't warn her off. No one ever said, no, Templeton said later, adding, if somebody told me, no, stop, I would have stopped. In the United States, it is typically the prosecutor's job to review a police investigation and decide what charges, if any, to file. But Tennessee allows counties to hire judicial commissioners to fill this role, from issuing warrants to setting bail to conducting probable cause hearings. Rutherford County's judicial commissioners can take on tasks that traditionally fall to judges or prosecutors without needing the legal training of either. County judges recommend people for the job. County commissioners appoint them. Rutherford County opens the job to anyone with a Tennessee driver's license and a high school diploma.
That may be the issue right there. That's the halfway mark. The article LP put in the comments, www.pro, P-R-O, Publica, Publica.org. All right, the name of the article is Black Children Were Jailed for a Crime That Doesn't Exist. Almost nothing happened to the adults in charge. Look up the article, finish listening to it, all right? All right, just take another 30 minutes, 40 minutes out of your life, listen to it if you have children. All right, pass the article on to other people. This is the least that we can do. All right, this is the least that we can do right now. All right, all we're asking people to do is just do your part. All right, just do your part. What's wrong with doing your part? All right, we're not asking anybody to be any high brand revolutionaries and this kind of thing. We're not asking for that. All right? Just for you to pass on a link, have the discussion about it, ask other people about it, at least listen to it, all right, until the end. All right, until I see y'all again. We have to do something, start doing something to protect the children. And the thing that you can do now is get a firm foundation in place. All right. Let's start by getting this book, Awakening the Natural Genius in Black Children, Dr. Amos Wilson. All right. Awakening the Natural Genius in Black Children. All right. Dr. Amos Wilson. I'm going to put it up on the screen. And I often do that so you'll have no excuse. Well, I didn't know what the color of the book looked like. Come on, man. Now you do. Hold on. Everybody on IG, hold on. There you go. Awakening the Natural Genius in Black Children. All right. Okay. by Dr. Amos Wilson. All right. So family, I hope you've have pulled something from this. If nothing else, have a better idea how racism, white supremacy works when it comes to our children, the system of racism, white supremacy. All right. Okay. Keep in mind, family, this week, for the next few days is the last few days that you can get the online course or participate in the 6 weeks online course with in-person range dates. That's developing an urban tactical mindset. Developing an urban tactical mindset. All right. Developing an urban tactical mindset. All right. If you want to take the class, or you want to take the course, pardon me, just contact me, Professor Griff, at 678-557-2919. All right. Okay. Hold on for a second. Do you recommend any natural remedies for the CVD? Okay. Yes, I do. But I'm not going to recommend them on the air openly. You hit me up, 678-557-2919. Text me. All right. All right, family. That's what I have for this evening. And yeah, I hope everyone is making it through the inclement weather, staying healthy. All right. Keeping your vitamin C and your vitamin D up, your black elderberry, oregano oil, your Irish and your sea moss. All right. It's Professor Griff. I got to study a bit and get prepared for the class on Sunday at 7 o'clock. Developing an urban tactical mindset. Let's get on it, fam. It's Professor Griff. I love y'all to life. All right. Serious minds attract serious minds. Seriously. Peace. All right. Peace, fam. Alternative Black Studies online course with instructor Professor Griff. Sign up today at www.professorgriff.me and Serious Minds Institute. The Alternative Black Studies online course with instructor Professor Griff. Sign up today at www.professorgriff.me and Serious Minds Institute. The Alternative Black Studies online course with instructor Professor Griff. Sign up today at www.professorgriff.me and Serious Minds Institute. Thank you.